Nature. What is your nature? Are you the categories, the labels, the associations that you stick on yourself? Or are you what you stick those things on? Because who you are is so deep and broad and wide and huge and infinite and tiny and beyond time and space entirely, that you can't hope to understand who you are with your mind and with thoughts which are based on separation, because each thought is a dissection of the whole. Each thought is not of wholeness, a thought is of separation, because thought is the mechanism through which we understand time and space. And time and space both exist on a continuum. A continuum that we like to box up and grid in order to understand it. So think of the world, think of the planet. One spherical unity. We've divided it up for the purpose of understanding. We've divided it up into longitude and latitude, and in doing so we can designate one aspect of the whole, just like in time and space. We can experience one aspect of the whole depending on where we are in time and space, what time we exist, what period in history, and what geographical area we are in. So this is the time and space construct that we live in. And while in essence, or while essentially time and space is an extension of spirit, the way we understand it is, or the way we tend to understand it in the modern world, is to forget spirit and just look at time and space as this divided up realm in which each one of us is a single aspect, and that is who we are. But at the risk of repeating myself, not a lot more to say actually, at the risk of repeating myself, we do not exist in our entirety in time and space. Time and space is where we express ourselves, where we express who we are. And who we are is beyond time and space. Who we are is an essence that chose to create and come into time and space in order to know itself through us. So we are tools. In terms of our time-space manifestation, we are tools of the divine to understand itself. But that can seem a bit like, oh, so I'm just a tool. No, we are tools through which the divine understands itself, but we are also that divine. We are that divine understanding. We are that divine which is understanding through time and space, and through this apparent limitation, this limited body and a limited house, is actually the extension of the unlimited. And knowing our nature is chipping away at the limited in order to uncover the unlimited at core, which cannot be described in words, because words or thoughts are designations of time and space. How can eternity be known in terms of time and space? So, in understanding our nature, we're shifting our consciousness. We're shifting our consciousness out of outdated or limited modes of understanding into direct understanding. So thoughts and words are things we slap on things to understand them. In understanding our nature, we're not slapping on a label anymore. We're seeing what is. as it is, without going vicariously, without going via a label. We're seeing directly rather than indirectly. Straight to the source. Straight to the source. That's what's happening. So I think it's really important to stress that separation, time and space, and unity, timelessness, eternity, these two things is not either or. We need both. And clearly we are both. I say clearly, like I said, spirit is often denied because locked in the senses we notice only what is most obvious. We're a slave to the senses until we look beyond them, until we draw our attention away from outside and inside where that spiritual dimension exists. So anyway, separation and unity, time and space and wholeness, duality, manyness and oneness. We need both. It's just a beautiful dance of duality and non-duality, of separation and unity. It's a dance, and we are the dancer. We are this consciousness that is dancing in and out, in and out, in and out of love, in and out the love that we are. And in truth, never really leaving it, because it is all that there is. So it's all valid, it's all essential in terms of the journey. The journey has a source and a destination. And what happens between the two. It's interesting when we go on a journey, we have a source and a destination, but we take ourselves with us, and we are ourselves at each part of that journey. So just as we have a journey from timelessness through time and space to understand ourselves, returning to timelessness, we are always that timelessness. Even in time and space, we are always timelessness. We can exist on one channel or the other, we can be out in time and space, or we can come in meditation and be in timelessness. That's what we're talking about here. That's what it's all about. The dance of duality and non-duality, the dance of being and doing, the dance of essence and substance, of time and timelessness, interweaving. So the categories that we usually understand ourselves through are constructs, essentially, mind constructs. But nature, in essence, is not a construct. Not a construct of limitation anyway, not a construct of limited understanding. If anything, nature, if it's a construct of the divine. It's the divine in manifest form. It's oneness born out into substance. So nature is beyond construct, and yet our ideas of nature may be constructed, just as we are beyond construction and constructed terms, constructions, descriptions of who we are beyond that. And yet our ideas of who we are may be constructs, based on our experience in time and space. So there's a difference between what we and nature is and our ideas about what we and nature is. So there's a difference between seeing things as they are and interpreting them through a mind that's caught in duality. We can see things in spiritual terms, on spiritual terms, or we can see them in mental terms. We can see things from the heart, which sees in wholeness. We can see things from the mind, which separates out in order to understand. And the body, physicality, can exist in either of those modes. It can exist as an extension of spirit, just an experiential medium, if you like, an experiential sensor, or the slave to a mind that is locked in separation. In which case the body becomes something less than its potential. So I've written, nature is not a construct, nor are you. Your ideas about nature might be a construct, just as your ideas about yourself might be a construct. But constructs fade to life itself. All life, ultimate life, which is not experienced through constructs, but directly. So it's almost like life needs to experience on its own terms to remain true. As soon as we start boxing it up into limitation and creating constructs, on one hand we are an extension of life, but on the other hand we're sort of extending it into a dead end. I suppose you can imagine it like the branches of a tree. So these branches go out and out and out into their different manifestations, and they reach an end point. And it's almost like, a strange kind of analogy, but it's like the life force, the sap, comes back down the tree to the source when it's gone out far enough. And it's like we live on a spiritual organic spectrum. So all of the organic life forms, ourselves included, that may be difficult for us to do, to include ourselves as organic life forms. We've kind of built ourselves so far away from our nature that we almost can't see it anymore. But the fact is, we are organic life forms. Beautiful, untainted organic life forms. And all organic life forms are an extension of the spiritual source. So it's like this spiritual energy in the life that exists in the world. It's like this spiritual energy is crystallized in form. It steps down from purity into a denser vibration in order to have experience. It's the same impulse of life, the same creative consciousness. And we are this. And I think it's interesting how we see technology pushing itself, or overlaying itself onto this spectrum and vying for our consciousness, because vying for our attention. As we give our attention over to technology, we're giving technology power. But technology does not exist on this spectrum of spirit to organic manifestation. And spirituality is essentially the organic manifestation, remembering, reconnecting to, realizing its spiritual essence, its spiritual origins. And technology is coming in, and we are employing technology apparently to serve us, and yet we are giving our consciousness, our attention, our awareness, which is all we really have, our life energy, we are giving over to technology. And so I've written here, technology is pushing itself in, is not in this spectrum, not in our spectrum. It is an alien influence pushing itself in as a wedge between us and ourselves. So again, it depends where you define you and yourself. But what I mean there is that it's a wedge between the ultimate nature, our ultimate nature, and our manifest experiential nature. So this is one nature, the ultimate and the experiential. This, in truth, is one nature, but we separate it out. It has been separated out for the purpose of experience, of journey, of understanding, of learning, of growing, of being. I mean, oneness needs to have something to do, so it splits into many, into 2, into 3, into 4, into 5, into 6, into 7, into 8, into 9, and we have this journey of all the parts interacting with all the other parts in order to learn about themselves. But what is nature holds true. Nothing natural is less than true nature, because no expression of the source is disconnected from the source when you can see in spiritual terms. When we're stuck in mind terms, physical terms, then we can't see that spiritual connection, and we actually become less than natural because we're cutting ourselves off from the nature that we are, the true nature that we were born from, that turns the planets and the stars in the sky. So what I mean here is that an expression of the whole, whilst it is a part of the whole, it is also the whole. So as humans, we are parts and we are whole. And the argument of what is nature doesn't have to be an argument, but there are many different views. The question, what is nature, doesn't even have to be a question, it's self-evident when you see. Nature can be seen in physical terms, can be seen in spiritual terms, can be seen in terms of separation because physically we appear separate, or can be seen in terms of unity because spiritually we all share the same source. We all feel the same spectrum of emotions. We all share the same life. We are different. We express life differently, but life runs through all of us. It animates all of us. We all move to the same life, the same rhythm, the same beat, the same heart, the same light, the same sun shining. So there's lots of stuff that I wanted to talk about with regard to nature, and I've written lots of notes, so it's going to be a bit of a reedy one. So learning who we are is learning of our nature. Our nature is not something to do, it is something that just is, something to align with, something to be, and the happening unfolds. It is not something on top of who we are, it is who we are. So when we're separate, there's the pressure to perform, to get to that place, to meet that person, to do this thing. But when we realise we are nature and everything is unfolding as it needs to unfold, then because we've removed the blinkers and we can see the whole and see that we are a part of the whole, we can start to trust the universe we were born from. We can start to trust ourselves, knowing that ourself is that, and in the world ourself is an expression of that. So I think it relates to how we understand on a linguistic level. I mean, like, do you breathe or are you breathed? Do you move or are you moved? It's just where you choose to place yourself in this understanding. If we think we are the ones doing everything, then it's like the weight is on our shoulders. But if we can just realise that everything is just happening and flowing, and we have the courage to align with that and trust that, because we recognise it as our deeper self, then life is a lot more enjoyable, a lot more fulfilling. So do you breathe or are you breathed? We can shift our perspective from us as doers to us as conduits for divinity to work through. And work it does, and you with it. Destiny, free will, it is written and you are writing it. So there's often this argument of destiny and free will. But if we are extensions of the source, if we are all that is, then what do? You know, it's like, what do the planets do? What do the stars do? They don't do anything other than what universal natural law determines that they do. And us, re-established to our true nature, are part of that universal law. Things only go wrong when we separate ourselves off from it and think that it's so simple. Think that we are separate. When we think that we are separate, we forget the whole. Then we separate ourselves into whole worlds of illusion, because that is an illusory premise that we are separate. We are not separate. So it doesn't mean, in seeing the whole, it doesn't mean sort of becoming lazy and falling off the world, not at all. In fact, in knowing this, we're enlivened with the will of the universe. The creative power of the universe starts to flow through us as we clear the channels for it to flow. It flows, and we do the work that the universe needs to do. This is what we're here for. So being, pure spirit, and in physical expression. So we are being, pure spirit, and in physical expression, receptive to that spirit which we are. Being extends into doing, and through doing returns to being. So no longer is doing about serving a separate sense of self that needs to eat and live and survive. Yeah, of course, we all need to survive, but what are we surviving for? We're not surviving just for survival's sake. We're surviving for something, right? The whole world is locked in survival because it's locked in a sense of separate self, which is weak, because it's disconnected from the source. And it needs strengthening, it needs protecting, and the whole world system is geared towards providing protection, which can't be provided. It's a protection racket. The whole world is a protection racket, telling you that you're limited, and so you need protection. The fact is, you are a limited expression of an unlimited being, and that unlimited being is what you are. So the only protection is knowing this love, and it's just a case of knowing that you are protected, you are loved because you are loved. So we are the creative power of the universe. This is love, this is life, this is nature. What is nature? Is it dangerous or loving? So yeah, if you think you're a separate sense of self, then you can enjoy what nature has to offer. But you also realise that it's unforgiving, it's unrelenting. If you're out in the desert or in the freezing mountains, then it cares not for you. It's like, I remember someone saying, the fabric of existence is unconditional love, and it doesn't give a shit. And this is beautiful because it is unconditional love, but it's unconditional love on its own terms. It's not on your own terms of looking out for your own separate self, because your own separate self is a myth to you, and you only. So what is nature? Is it dangerous or loving? Well, if you think you're separate, it's going to be dangerous. You're going to need to look out. If you know your true nature, you know, it doesn't mean you don't want to protect yourself as a limited identity, as a limited expression. Of course you do. But there's a greater trust that life runs through regardless, you know. So where are you identifying with? Who are you? What is your nature? Is it limited? Is it unlimited? Is it enough as it is, or in need of changing, fixing, overcoming, improving, tapering, validating? So a separate sense of self. We might feel okay, but there's this underlying, am I good enough? Am I accepted? Am I blah 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 blah? All the insecurities that come with being human. And these insecurities are only appeased through knowing the love that you are is the greatest security. So it's all spirit and it's all self-validating, self-fulfilling. So whatever the level of your understanding, that is your experience. Whether in spiritual or matter, it's all happening now. Where do you align? What you choose is the aspect of the whole you choose to express. So it's almost like we're learning to be what we want to experience. And that is a process of uncovering who we are. I don't want you to take my word for who we are. I don't want anyone to create a sense of who they are from anyone else, because we are who we are, and this is what we create from. Nature is life, all life. It is your experience, but ultimately it is what is having that experience. So true nature, having an experience through a more limited aspect of nature. Life is bigger than you, and yet you are life also. You are a part of the whole, and you are the whole thing. The whole thing. Thing, no thing. You know, the universal light. And this is the microcosm, the macrocosm. We are the microcosm to the macrocosm. We are the part to the whole. And it's like a hologram, it's like a fractal where the whole, or the part is also the whole is also the part. Just different scales of the same thing. So the fractal nature of consciousness, you are an aspect of life as a part of the picture, the fabric, and you are all life as the whole. So it's like you are a strand of the blanket, a strand of the universal tapestry, and you are also that whole tapestry. Where do you want to live from? Where do you want to live from? So nature is nature. Nature can be many things, because you can be many things. And this is the beauty of the experience. We can choose where we invest ourselves, where we create ourselves, how we become ourselves. But don't get locked into anything less than you are. Not because I'm telling you not to, but because you know it's not in our interest to get locked in anything less than we are. Where is your perspective? The limited or broader perspective? And so nature, if we have a limited perspective, nature is savage. Look at the jungle, look at the way the lion eats the antelope. It's savage when we're looking at it from an individual separate perspective, from the perspective of the antelope, or the perspective of the lion even. It's a savage existence, But this is because we're looking in too far without zooming out to see the whole perspective. What is happening in that? One thing is being killed by another thing. Yeah, but what is continuing is life. It is life giving over to life. The antelope dying is sustenance for the lion, It's like it's the continuation of life. It's life taking on different forms. Life as life always, just unchanging life, experiencing and expressing itself through different forms that arise and fall away. Just like thoughts arise and fall away in your consciousness, physical expressions arise and fall away in the world. But what remains is consciousness, life, awareness. This is what is, and this is who you are. So this is what I mean by don't get locked into anything less than you are. Don't think you're the antelope. Don't think you're the lion. You are life. You are the life that runs through both. That antelope, it doesn't die. It does as an expression. But connected to all life, it continues. So where is your perspective? Where is your perspective? The limited that dies, or the eternal that lives on forever? So, next thing I just wrote on this long list of things I wanted to talk about in this video. Life is life. And there's a certain context through which we can understand it. So, to me, spiritual is the source, and the spiritual expresses itself down through the mental, the emotional, the physical. And in the world of things, it's almost like the physical sense of self, which the mind identifies with, has become what we serve, rather than the mind identifying with the spirit. And to me, the natural law, not even to me, natural law exists as a hierarchy. It's all life and it's all valuable, but there is a hierarchy, and spirit needs to be at the head. Spirit needs to be at the head. The rightful place of spirit is the source which it is. So all the expressions of spirit, the mind and the body, need to be in service and aligned to the spirit they came from in order for natural law to be upheld. As soon as we start worshipping separation, as soon as we start worshipping the limited individual body-mind, forgetting the source it's connected to, we're inverting natural law. And this is like the upside down pentagram. It's the spirit, which is the top point of the star, being subjugated to matter. This is Satanism. This is the inverse of life. So we can celebrate and love and enjoy the mental and the physical, but only as expressions of the spirit that we are. If we forget the spirit, then we're worshipping something less. It's like I mean, what's more valuable, the art or the artist? What is more valuable? What is more valuable, the created or the creator? If we just look at the created and place our value there, that's fine for a time, for a space, but it fades. Whereas the creator is what gives birth to everything and never fades. It's eternally one. So it's like context. The spirit provides the context for understanding everything else. If we don't have that context, we're lost. We're just knocking about as separate parts, like in our lower nature. And it's all valuable. Like talking about higher nature and lower nature, we contain all of it, and it's not like an ungrounded spirituality where we neglect our material, physical needs. I'm not talking about that sort of thing. I'm just seeing that the physical needs need to be seen in the spiritual context. So, yeah, fulfill your physical needs, but see what they are serving. Are they serving your own egoic selfishness, or are they serving your own universal self, which is shared by all others also, and so therefore your actions are not creating separation but unity? What do you want to create? Who are you? It all stems from this question, who are you? And that's for each of us to realise that we must, because that's what we're here for, and we're not going to leave this earth until we realise, one way or another, life continues until we've understood who we are and what we're doing here. So spirituality is about being true to your nature, but you have to know what that is for yourself. How can you align with what you don't know? So how can you align to yourself if you don't know yourself? This is why we need to explore, to examine, to reflect. It is yourself, your higher self, looking at itself, and at whatever stage you are at, you can choose what you know to be most right. It may be a difficult decision, it may take effort and personal power, but if you want to evolve, it is your responsibility to make it. To invest this personal power to see it born, to live up to your highest vision of self and world, of what our nature is capable of. Doing that, being that, you see it manifest. As creative being, our thoughts, words and actions extend out from us, from within, and into the world we create outside. So we must remember this creative potential, this creative essence that we are. And we are always creating, so whether we understand ourselves on a deep level or a superficial level, that is the point from which we are creating. So don't settle for a lesser vision of nature because it's easier, because it takes less effort, requires no discipline. Step up to what you are capable of. In embracing that responsibility, there is true freedom. True freedom is not given you in a world rife with other agendas. Love or nothing, life or nothing, nature or nothing. Be your nature or you are nowhere and nothing and floating out in space, cast adrift from you, the very self you are. We are not nowhere, we are now here. So what is not spirit, not the life of nature, is not real. So much of what we think is real in the world is not real, is nothing and nowhere because it's not connected to its eternal source, the boundless love you are. And yet it's all that. There is individual and universal nature. Once you've got it, there is no difference. So you are articulating something limited. So are you articulating something limited to you or something universal? Only the universal is true, and it runs through you as the apparent limited. You are it. The individual is true also, but on its own terms, which don't extend beyond the individual perceiving them unless that individual has an understanding of their true nature, or other individuals that share it. Parts die as parts, life lives on as the whole, and all the parts are is the various aspects of the whole seeking to understand itself as you seek to understand yourself, for it's one and the same. Isn't it more fulfilling to align with what is eternal than what dies, love rather than distortion? Know thyself, then follow your nature, leading and following. It's all the same when you know, for the duality has been bridged when you know who you are. Again, I'm talking about knowing who you are beyond separation, beyond oneness. Separate those parts is oneness. So in oneness you can love, you can let go, you can trust, because you are, and you know you are. So the last bit I want to talk about here is being out in nature, in the trees, in the fields, in the green, under the sky, on the earth, with the animals and the insects, the moon and the sun, the wind, the water, the air, the fire. Why do we yearn for this? It's because this is who we are. On that spectrum, that natural spectrum of spirit through to manifest form, and of form back to unmanifest spirit. Nature is who we are. So sitting in nature, being in nature, walking in nature, we like nature because we are it. Don't forget, anything living is nature. The spiritual organic spectrum of consciousness we are. That includes you. That includes you. We are born of and live through the same stuff as the plants and the animals, the birds and the trees. We are love made manifest for all to see.